My name's Tom Pennington. I am doing this because for evil to prevail, it needs only one thing for good people to do nothing. So, hence the name of this thing. Here's something. Here's something is really about thinking for yourself. I think that we are here in the United States, we are in an unprecedented time where people are afraid that there's not maybe even going to be another election, that maybe their social security checks won't come, or their food stamp card won't be re-energized, or their kids won't be able to go to school. These are all things that really happened in the 1930s under Hitler. And I think it's important to recognize that fact that we didn't learn from history, we're repeating it. And we're repeating it because we put that man in the White House along with all his cronies. Take a look at the facts. A couple of things about critical thinking. I would like to define critical thinking for you in just a moment. It's really about thinking for yourself, not allowing other people to sway your opinion. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to tell you that, this is great, this isn't, this person is good, the person is not. I mean, I'm going to give you my opinion. My opinion is that we're in a very unprecedented time that's going to be very dangerous for an awful lot of people. My opinion is that a lot of folks in power today don't want poor folks to be educated. They don't want poor folks to have means or money or be able to travel or live a decent life. They want us all staring at cell phones and not thinking for ourselves. So that is actually the opposite of critical thinking. Thinking for yourself really means that you take time, you take in information, you digest that information, and you make your own opinion. And that is what I really want to encourage everybody to do, because I believe fervently, deep in my heart, that if we all do that, we will not succumb to the kind of dictatorship that we are right on the brink of right now in the United States. So what I really wanted to do was bring some attention to being able to think for yourself. First off, there are some ways you can do that, and they're very simple ways. I'm going to tell you how to form an opinion. I'm not going to try to sway you. I kind of like Bernie Sanders, but here's the reality about Bernie and a lot of folks. He's going to tell you what to believe in, right? I don't particularly want to do that. I can tell you this, though. We can agree to disagree with each other. I've had folks, pretty far right conservative folks, tell me that they can get along with me just fine. And, I think that's because I've learned how to think for myself, and I allow other people to do the same thing. I may disagree with them, but we can agree to disagree. So here's something, is the name of this little video. And I hope to do more of these as we go along on specific topics. But today what I really wanted to talk about was thinking for yourself and how to do that. So a couple simple things. Television is wonderful. It's wonderful for entertainment, mindless passing of time, etc., etc. It is not good to actually form opinions about what's happening around you. Propaganda is really about forcing opinions in a certain direction. So instead of saying that things like CNN is good or bad, or Fox News is good or bad, or any of that other stuff, what I'd really like to suggest is that you stop getting your news from your cell phone, unless you're reading it, or from the television. Get your news in printed form. Here's the thing. If we read something, here's what we have to do. We have to engage our brain. We have to physically take in data through our eyes. We have to interpret that data through the language sensors. Then we have to assimilate that data in our minds and say, well, this is what this means, and this is what this means. If you want to put this to the test, do this. Get a transcript of your favorite news show. Good Morning America, MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, whatever you want to look at, right? NPR, you can do it there too. So get a transcript and read through it. here's what you'll find. You'll find that the words you're reading have a different connotation and a different context than what you actually heard. Here's why. When we read something, we hear the voice in our head. We don't hear the voice in our ears. So what we've done now is we have become patient and private with the words, the information that's coming to us. We also don't have the tone and inflection, the angst, the urgency maybe that commentators have. And if you don't believe in this, get a transcript of any sports show. Any sports show will point this out. The commentators really don't say a whole lot about the sport themselves. What they do is they had a lot of opinion with a lot of inflection, with a lot of modulating of their voices up and down, and a lot of very strong kind of opinion throwing out, this is my opinion, and, this is why I think it's correct. And they're fine. I mean, it's fine with it. But they're entertaining you. They're not giving you information. The reality is, before a game happens, no sports commentator knows what's going to happen in that game. Likewise, when the news is broadcast, today they're not really giving you news. What they're giving you is opinion disguised as news. And I think that happens on both sides. I really do. This is all the more reason why a good critical thinker, not necessarily a good person, but a good critical thinker will actually sit and read the news instead of listening to the news. Now, let me qualify that just a little bit more. Radio is great because you can't see the person. There's no really pretty lady or really handsome man telling me, because those things change our opinions too, right? We have to actually kind of think about what's being said and what we want to do with that information. This is all pretty critical. It's really important that we start to think for ourselves by taking a look at facts, because broadcast media, whether it's sound, pictures, whatever that is, and this is part of it too, right? I mean, what you're looking at right now is an old guy who simply has to do something, okay? Something is better than nothing, and this is my maybe vain attempt at trying to do something in this perilous time that I believe we find ourselves in. I am hoping that America survives all this. I really do. I hope that we continue to educate. We continue to help the poor. I think we continue to make things better for American citizens. And I don't see that happening right now. That's my difference of opinion. That's where I disagree. Now, here's the thing I'm not doing. I don't have any flashy lights behind me. I don't have handsome men or pretty girls or any of that other stuff to distract you. I'm not waving my arms. I don't have a sign behind me that says a Second Amendment. I don't have any of that stuff. What you're seeing is an old guy doing his best to advocate that people begin to think for themselves and not just pay lip service to that, but actually think for yourself, to take a look at facts, put your feelings to one side for a moment. What are the facts here? My very conservative friends really want the same thing I do. They want to go to work. They want to have a decent life. They want to go on vacation once a year. They want to go to the grocery store and be able to buy what they want to eat without going broke. People want to send their kids to school. They want all this. We all want the same kinds of things. And that's not just here in the United States. That's worldwide, right? Most people, probably 90, I'm going to go out on a limb, 95% of the people, they really just want to live a nice, peaceful, decent life. So the other 5% of the people, the power hungry and the money grabbers, they want to influence what you think because you have the real power. Now, this is not my opinion, okay? I want to qualify that very carefully. If you take a look, separate your feelings from the facts, if you take a look, the majority of the people actually have power over all governments, over all armies, over all things at all times. Because we can simply just stop working. We can simply tell people no. Now, for some of us, there may be some really terrible repercussions from that. And I'm not too sure what the repercussions for this broadcast is going to be, to tell you the truth. But I am going to post it on YouTube and put a link on Facebook. And for me, for an old guy like me, that's quite a bit of technology. So if it goes any farther than that, great. If nobody watches it, I've done my part. Okay? Feelings from facts. This is extremely important when you become a critical thinker. When I actually examine objectively what's going on in life so that I can make a decision about it, I have to separate my feelings from my facts. And you can see how easily, just from the way I'm talking, how easily feelings crop up, right? I put out a whole bunch of opinions already about where I think this country is headed. Some of that's feeling, some of it's not. The part that's not is that people can change their environment if they get together and stick together. There's no reason why, in my opinion, we should be angry with each other. I don't think so at all. I don't think that anger is going to help us. I think it could certainly hurt us. And it's been proven over and over and over again. I don't think there's any one group that is trying to take away from another group. I think that's just something that people do. They try to instill fear. Fear is just a feeling. Caution is not a feeling, by the way. Caution is a little bit different. For example, I look both ways before I cross the street. That's caution. If I look both ways, but I'm not going to cross the street because, anything could happen and a car could come and, rim me up, that's fear. Fear is a what if scenario. And that's what we've done. We've indulged fear for a really long time. One of the best reasons for putting your feelings aside and dealing with facts is that you make better decisions when you deal with facts. And one of the best ways to do that is to disengage from television, even radio, maybe, and actually read news so that you can get facts. And then vet those facts that you read. Don't get them all from one source, multiple sources. Maybe even check things out to see if they're actually accurate. For example, the claim by our vice president that the aggression in Ukraine was started by Ukraine. You can go back and take a look from 2022. And those Russian troops were amassed on the border for months before they invaded. So take a look at the facts. The other reason is very simple. Again, this is reminiscent of 1930s Germany. And in Nazi Germany, they experimented with a lot of things. They experimented on people, which is all illegal and unethical here in the United States now. But back then, they did a lot of it. And one of the things they did was they used subliminal messages. If you are listening to something or watching something, TV, movies, etc., radio, you're subject to a possible subliminal message. In other words, I can slip a message in there that maybe you can't even hear consciously, but you're getting it subconsciously, right? This is pretty dangerous. And like I said, it's illegal. It's unethical here in the United States. Doesn't mean that people aren't doing it. It's also illegal for an unelected official to fire federal employees, but we're doing that too. So if you take a look at feelings from facts, you got to kind of look at what's actually going on, right? And that's actually going on. So how do I know where they'll stop or if they'll stop or, I don't. So it's one more reason for me as a critical thinker, someone who likes to make sure that I have my facts right before I make decisions. It's even one more important for me to avoid the possibility of subliminal messaging. Subliminal messaging has been proven to be very effective. It's a very effective tool. It's not mind control. What it does is it plants a seed in the subconscious that if I give you enough of the same message over and over, and subliminally I give you a trigger for that, you're eventually going to put all those associations together and you're going to say, you know what, that is right. It's that group over there. They're the problem. We need to get rid of those people. That's what happened in Germany in the 1930s. And we're poised to do it again here in the United States. The death of democracy, the death of the democratic process is really, it's really on the table, I believe. I think that in the United States, and again, my opinion, okay, I think that we may be lucky to ever have another free and fair election. I can tell you as an election worker for the last 5 election cycles in Indiana, of all places, that if we can have a fair election in Indiana, I'm sure we did because I was an election worker for 5 cycles, we can have fair elections anywhere in the United States. And I believe that as much as anything. And I didn't just assume that. I didn't just say, well, you know, our elections are good while I'm sitting at home. No, I volunteered. I went down and I worked the polls and I talked to people, and I talked to people from both parties and both sides of the political spectrum, and I talked to voters, and you know what? We had a fair election both times, 2020 and 2024. They were fair elections. They were. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Now, that's not an opinion. That is also backed up by an awful lot of objective data from those 2 periods. So I think that my message here is pretty simple. I enjoy democracy. I enjoy people, the majority of the people, making decisions and running things. Unfortunately, we have some folks that are very invested in gaining power and controlling others. And there is only one real outcome to this. They want 2 classes of people. They want a ruling class and a slave class. And, you know, as poor folks, we're not going to be in a ruling class, guys. I mean, that's objective information, okay? Poor people don't become rulers. They become slaves. Now, you may be offended at the word slave. That's fine. You can be offended at anything I say. That's fine with me. But we may be rapidly heading to a day where you're not free to quit a job if you want to quit a job. And if you're forced to stay in a job that you don't want to be in, it's called slavery. That's the very definition of it. So I think that my message is really simple here. And hopefully you'll take it in the spirit that it's intended. For evil to prevail, it needs only one thing: for good people to do nothing. I did not want to sit and do nothing. So this is something. That's the name of this. This is something. It's very little. It may be a finger in the dam that, you know, the water may come over and drown me at any moment. But I didn't just sit by. So I hope you don't either. I hope you take the time to think for yourself. And if you agree with everything that's going on, great. That's wonderful, actually. Because now you've given it a process. You put it to the test. You set your feelings aside. You dealt with facts and you said, well, this is the way I interpret the facts. And I think that they are doing the right thing. That's great. That's great, because as a critical thinker, I may be wrong. That's the ultimate test for a free-thinking individual, for a person who can separate feelings from facts and actually rely on objectivity to make up their mind, to end with a statement that I might be wrong. I may not be, but I might be. My mind is wide open to both possibilities. Now, this is something, it may not be much, but it is something. And if anyone ever hears this, if anyone ever watches it, I want to thank you for your time and attention. And I'm really hoping that you become more objective in the way you take in information and judge for yourself. And if you have, I'll support that 150% if that was possible. But I do think that no matter what happens to all of us, I really do believe we are on all this together. We're in it together, whether we want to think so or not. Us, the Canadians, the Ukrainians, the Russians, we're all in it together. We're all just people trying to do the best we can. Everybody basically wants the same thing. In my opinion, some folks have deluded themselves with the idea that they can have more power than they really ought to have. But I digress. This is Tom Pennington from Indiana in the United States, and hopefully you found the last 21 minutes and 15 seconds entertaining. This is something, and maybe I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.